It wasn't sweet and so simple. When it was just churches and candles. We ain't had no Turks and no Caicos. No fresh ready kill for the sandals. Learn how to pedal, no handles. Back when we dropping, we pedal right from the sandals. Like who in the match? I'm running the maps. I run it like laps. They running in last. I may overlap and won't double back. Cause my past is my past. They open my path and part of my back. She wanted it back. Wanted some rap. Mine came with a name. Hers came with some change. We want the same thing. Let's not get off track.
Alright, so I'm gonna do a little recap because the beginning of this video will be kind of a mess because I lost my tripod and I've just been doing random stuff, and I'm gonna honestly keep doing random stuff because it's nice to be able to just pick what I want to do because I think that's gonna be the most fun. We're ready to cut. So this point is the same on both sides. It's like, okay, well, I'll use that as a reference, this line. We're adding window guys to our resume today.
Start a company called the Window Guy.
The Harbor Freight special, thanks to Chadwick. What's up, pendejos? Today we're doing more boring stitch welding. I got about an hour. I'm gonna try to get all that. Stitch welding seams until there's no more left. Today's job is going to be to get this trunk floor out and then finish up my final cutting on the rear end. I cut along the frame rail on the outside of the pinch weld to keep all that structure there. And this is what you're left with. All right, so I think I've made my mind up on where to cut the frame rail so that I have something to build off of. So we're going to cut that, and then I think what I'm gonna do is go up this line and come back. Today's after work activity is spot weld drilling. Fresh Amazon spot weld drillers, thanks to Luke. I think we're done cutting on the chassis besides for the trans tunnel. So that's just sitting in there. This is an Alaria trans tunnel. So we got an Alaria trans tunnel, cat hump delete, and a rear firewall. So I got the rear firewall because it'll help me pretty much take away all the guesswork as to where I'm gonna place everything, right? Like, where do I start laying stuff out, right? Well, if I get that firewall in there, somebody else has figured the job out. As well as it's gonna save me so much time to install a product that already fits. So what's left back here? We did our final cutting on the frame rails. Final cutting on the quarters. The only thing we have left to do here is I have to get the subframe out and order a fuel cell, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut into here so I can get that fuel cell down lower and just keep that weight closer to the ground. And then after that, we can get a radiator in here. And I think as far as the rear goes, that'll be our fab work. All right, I spent some time spot weld drilling the rear parcel shelf off. And then I went through and got like a bunch of other brackets off that I don't need. And then I went ahead and started stitch welding back here. So I still got to clean all this up and finish stitch welding that and then get under the car. So today, plating this box. So I'm gonna box this in and then I'm gonna run a square sock across so that that is finalized. And then what I'll do is I'm gonna make a plate that fills this area, so then the radiator and the fuel cell have a nice flat spot to sit on. And moving to the front, plate this in. So I'm gonna make a plate that runs along here, maybe fold it up into this, I'm not sure. And then that'll be where the tube front attaches. I'm not sure on, I think I've mentioned it before, I don't know if I wanna go down to here or down to here. Personally, I think to the top makes more sense, because if anybody gets on this rail and there's a bar running like this, well, that bar naturally is going to have more leverage on this frame rail or this shock tower here than here, in my opinion. But James Dean and Jimmy Oakes and some other people do it that way, so maybe there's something I don't understand. All right, so we got our 3 by 4¼ So what this is gonna do is it's gonna plate the back of the car, just tie the frame rails together before I weld that box tubing to it. My thought there is that like if I just weld that box tubing straight to the rail, that metal that encloses the metal that is the tubing of the rail is pretty thin. So if I just weld that box tubing to it and somehow there's a high impact where we get into that box tubing, I'd be worried that it would tear. So what I'm gonna do is I got some 1/8 plate and I'm gonna plate it, and then this plate will be welded all the way around the rail, and then it'll have a bend in it, and then it will cap off the end of the square tubing that we're gonna weld to the chassis. Okay, and then we'll do one of these. Then the ends are capped, and we got a good structure. All right, so what we did is we took our angle here on the subframe, which was 0, and again, like I kind of explained, this side was 0.30, and so what I've done now is overall it's 0.30, which is fine. Over here, see how we're close to 0, and then over here we are close to that 0.30. So realistically, overall we're trending with what the subframe is doing at a minimum. So I've just got this tacked up. Now I'm going to eyeball it. There is a little bit of an unfortunate where this bottom tube you can see is pushed back a little more than here. Maybe that's because my cut isn't flush or my weld isn't flush here compared to here, but it's no big deal. It just is what it is. This also reads closer to 0 there, which is good. So I think we're good. These things kind of, in my opinion, suck because they're like overly sensitive, but maybe that's just because they're overly correct. Another quick check I did is going off of the back of the subframe to here is 9 1/8, and then same thing here, 9 1/8. So what that does is, it kind of just guarantees me that I'm roughly in the right range as far as like my cuts being square. And I mean, you're always going to have a small amount of differences. Like there's just too much going on to have zeros everywhere across the board. So, as I said, we welded those plates to the chassis, right? So that is strength there. And then now we welded these 2 seam welded box tubes all the way around as well. So there's gonna be a lot of strength within here. I might put a brace in here just to try to keep, I literally just thought about this, but like if this were to try to go this way, I think it would help to have like a little brace in there. Same thing with that. But yeah, everything is on there. It looks good. Hopefully this video's not too boring. I know I'm just kind of sitting in the same spot, not really much switch of scenery, but all right, so we ran out of gas and I found another tank that has like just enough to tack a bunch of parts on, I think, and then at least at that point everything's tacked on, and I can try to finish weld because I can't get gas this weekend. So what we're doing now, we moved on to the front, and I'm going to make the plates for there. So we got this guy all traced out, ready to go, just like that. Too easy. Works over there, flip it the other way. All right, so we got our plates on. Nice little bend, all one piece, overlapped it so I can weld it from the back. And since, as I said, we're out of gas, on the tip of continuing to try to get as much done tack weld wise, we are going to grab the cat hump delete. Nope. Come out, wherever you are. So yeah, cat hump delete. This thing will pretty much, I'm pretty sure this is the trans mount here. So this will pretty much take up that space. So what we're gonna do is get the bulk of it out. I'm gonna find the trans. Yep, so it's right here, comes along. So this is the bracing for the trans mount. So we're gonna go ahead and cut that all out. Dude, and just like that, literally just saved me so much time. So I did this before on my S13, it has cat help and delete. And granted, that was my first time doing it, but let's just say we cut all the BS out of that. I had to make it in 3 sections just to get that form right, because as you can see, I'm pretty sure they break that. That's what all those lines are, is break lines. That is incredibly hard to do unless you have a break. So I made it in 3 sections so that I could do it in a vise. And this literally, I wish I had the time, but I guarantee getting this part tacked in, like from cutting to tacked in, it took me 20 minutes. That's pretty incredible. But we have to modify that tunnel because I want to have the OEM gas mount. So we're gonna do that, and then we will work on getting that tunnel tacked in. So this is the piece for the OEM gas pedal, which comes scribed, which is sick. So it might be hard to see that little L there and there. So those are scribe marks for the OEM bolting holes for the OEM pedal. And on the tunnel, there's scribe marks as well. You can see right there, that nice even mark is a scribe mark so that we can cut this plate perfectly to install it onto here. We'll get that tacked onto there all nice. And we'll get to measuring out that tunnel just to make sure that I don't put this thing in wrong and then it doesn't pass tech. I don't know how strict FD tech is, but I would hate to find out one day or have somebody else find out one day over something so silly. So, all right, so we got that guy on there. So again, this tunnel is so wide that it blocks the factory gas pedal mounting points, which are in here. So what that bracket does, it just allows for that, or what this piece does, is it just allows for you to use that OEM pedal. So that was pretty easy. Now we're gonna mark out this guy. Got to pull up the FD rulebook on my computer, and then I'll just try to rough mark it out. I don't think I'm gonna get it perfect, but at least we'll get close. We're closer than we would if we didn't do it. So FD rulebook, pretty cool. Scroll all the way down, and here we are, firewall and transmission tunnel modification. Dimensions: A, tunnel width may be no wider than 18 inches. Dimensions: B, minimum dimensions of 10 inches between the bottom of the windshield and the top of the transmission tunnel. So that distance and this distance. So we got our 10-inch mark there. So I measured 18 inches thinking, you know, it was like as a whole, but it's 18 inches at the bottom. So we're never gonna get that wide, but this is the height. And then I drilled my hole, and seemingly we're not even close to that. You know, we're about here. Maybe we'll get up there, but we're gonna be good. I'm gonna get to cutting. I'd like to get this in there and then end that video here. So let's shoot for that. So we ended up with 16 inches between here, and then clearly there's my hole, so we're within spec there. That's great that they build it that way so that you don't have to even come close to risking it. I'm definitely glad I did this first because we did cut into that. So what I did is I pretty much went around the whole thing, 1/4 inch of my mark in with my cuts. So that way I have a little bit of overlap. And then what I'll do with that overlap is I will tack weld it on the other side. So I'll fully weld this side, and then I will tack weld. I will tack weld the other side, seam seal the whole thing, and we will be good to go. All right, guys, I'm shot. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you like this kind of content, let me know. I tried to make it not boring because I'm sure it's boring. And like I said, I forgot my tripod. So really all there would be is a bunch of B-roll of me like cutting, tacking, and grinding, which is probably boring. But yeah, we made good progress. So we got plates on there, trans tunnel tacked in, cat hump delete tacked in. We got the frame rails plated inside and out. Same thing there, got that bar on fully welded. So I need to make some braces there. Overall, great progress. We got a lot of material back on the car today, and that is awesome. Yeah, fuck yeah. Let me know what you guys think. See you on the next one.